Hello there, people of the internet. This video kind of pains me to make, but I'm still going to make it. Military surplus collecting is kind of dead to me. Like, you guys know that I'm a big military surplus collector. I have all sorts of stuff from all over the world, and most of my things stem from moments of opportunity, like this particular batch of guns is selling for this price at this auction, or this guy is trying to pawn off this gun, pawn shop's not interested, I'm there, hey, I'll give you whatever X amount of dollars for that, or hey, this gun store has this gun on commission and this guy selling it on commission is asking this price and I'm fine with that, or something like that, or I know this guy who has this and he's willing to sell it for the most part by a pretty huge margin. I am someone who finds opportunity like that in order to buy my military surplus stuff. But that being said, as far as like the commercial market goes and the private market and the public general price of most of your military surplus firearms nowadays, they're just not worth it. I know a lot of times I'll bring up, hey, why would I pay $500 for that old school bolt action rifle when that $500 would get me an entry level AR, which would serve whatever purposes I need to be served way more than that old school bolt action rifle. Those same people will tell me, well, you're buying it for the history or the story behind it, or the significance for the provenance of what it is and where it came from, etc., etc. But then that same thing that they're selling for, say, $500 doesn't really have the history that really excites people. Actually, this is a really good example for what I'm talking about here. This is a Yugoslavian Mauser, 2447. These typically run about $400 to $500. You used to be able to pick these up for under $100, dude. But nowadays, it's $400 to $500, and I get it. It's what the market calls for. What people are willing to pay is what people are going to sell it for. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not willing to pay it. So this is the one I got. And if I find one for a good deal, then I'll pick it up. But I'm not going to go and spend $500 on one of these rifles. And there's no real significant historical provenance behind one of these. It's just people selling things for as much money as they are possibly able to squeeze out of the military surplus market. And there's people out there that are willing to pay it. And if you're willing to pay it, by all means, good for you, go for it. But I am not. And that's the point of this video. I got my collection, but by a pretty huge margin. Dude, I don't even browse military surplus guns anymore. I don't bother going to pawn shops or gun stores or anything like that because people are just asking these big prices for it. I'm not dropping $500 on a standard run-of-the-mill Mosin Nagant. I'm not dropping $500 on, this 80-year-old Yugo Mauser, although that is how much I paid for that, simply because of some repairs I had to do to it and whatnot, and that's a whole story in itself. I got videos on that if you want to go check those out on the channel. Or this. This is an SKS. This is a Russian SKS. I watched a guy buy one of these for $1,000, which is nuts. I'd never spend $1,000 on an SKS. They're just not worth that price, not to me anyway. And if they're worth that price to you, like I said, by all means, hats off to you. You do whatever you want. I regret not buying more of these whenever they were cheap. And yes, I know all of us regret that. But at the prices that we spend on these military surplus guns, we can get really good modern guns. Like this bolt-action 8mm Mauser for $500. I could pick up a modern commercial hunting rifle that's actually scope mount ready, that has a much better accuracy than something like this right here, that has a warranty behind it, that has like a polymer stock on it or something like that, so it's nice and lightweight, way more practical than this 100-year-old 4 MOA bolt-action rifle chambered in 8mm Mauser, which is by every stretch of the imagination an obscure caliber today, even in comparison to the calibers that are very predominant on the market. Like, I get it. You can go out and get surplus for 8mm still to this day. I understand that. But, dude, like, it's not nearly as popular as something like 308 or 30-06 or even 6.5 Creedmoor at this point, or 223, 300 Blackout. Insert your choice of common caliber here, which you're very likely to find in basically any gun store that you go into. 8mm is just not one of those very popular cartridges, and the amount of money that you spend on this rifle, having to source this more obscure ammunition for it, it's just not worth it. I'm glad that I reload and make my own ammo, otherwise I'd never really shoot this. A lot of the stuff I shoot is surplus, because I managed to get surplus whenever it was cheap, but once it's out, it's gone, it's out, it's gone. Like the amounts of money people are asking just for surplus ammo, you spend like a few more pennies per shot and you can go out and get like actual non-corrosive factory modern production ammo. I mean, not just with 8mm Mauser. Look at 7.62x54R. Go out and get yourself a spam can of ammo for 440 rounds of that stuff, and that spam can of ammo, that 80-year-old corrosive military surplus ammo, that stuff is the same price that people are asking for modern production ammo, which is just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And that's why military surplus is dead to me, because the modern stuff that you can get for the same price, or oftentimes even less, that performs better and does things better, is just the better option. If you're getting something for a historical significance reason, then you might be willing to pay a little bit more, but a random run-of-the-mill Mosin 9130 or some Yugoslavian Mauser or something like that, those just aren't worth the amounts of money that people are asking, even considering the historical significance. I mean, even look at the German World War II stuff. That stuff is stupidly priced. Look at Lugers. Those things are off the scale in terms of expensive, and they're not worth it, and that's why I don't own one. I get the whole historical significance thing, I get that, but they are, like, that historical significant argument pushed these prices to the point to where the modern person cannot afford it. Like, I'm not spending $2,000 on some 100-year-old handgun when that $2,000 would get me like several rifles and several handguns and ammo and mags and accessories and training time with something else. It's just not worth it. And again, that's the point of this video. Military surplus nowadays, unless I'm finding myself some kind of deal, is just not worth it. And I know a lot of you guys feel the same. So speaking of military surplus, before the sun goes completely down, I am going to fire a couple of these rounds. I have some Turkish 8mm Mauser here, and I've already fired my 8mm Mauser, so I got to clean it. So this stuff is old and corrosive and whatnot, and it's hard to believe that this stuff is running like 40 to 50 cents per shot, which is just nuts. That is nuts. Of course, modern 8mm Mauser ammo, for the few companies that do load it nowadays, you're looking at like $1 plus a round. So this is less expensive, but that doesn't mean that it's not expensive. Let me go ahead, open up our Mauser here, see if the stripper clip works well enough to load this in there. See what I mean? Just old school military surplus. If this was a modern gun, it'd be loaded by now. Get in there. I'm not asking, I'm telling. Get in there. Screw you. You're going in the garbage. Alright. Let me send a couple of these rounds downrange. This is military surplus ammo, and it might not even fire. I got a heavy firing pin spring in this thing. Like, if this doesn't set it off, then, well, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And I should not be spending. Luckily, like I said, I got a bunch of this stuff back whenever it was being imported, you know, by the truckload, and it was cheap and available. You can still kind of find it fairly cheap nowadays, but it's not near as cheap as it used to be. It's not as cheap as it should be. And that's, again, just supply and demand. I'm sure there's going to be a million comments down below talking about supply and demand. Like, hey, these people are willing to pay this, so that's what people are going to ask. And yeah, I get it. I'm not willing to pay it. That's the point of this video. I'm not willing to pay it. You can do whatever the hell you want. And the people that are willing to pay it, those are the people that are making sure that the market price doesn't come down because they're willing to pay it. And by all means, you do whatever it is that you're going to do. I can't stop you. No one can stop you. And it's probably a good thing that no one can stop you. All right. And there we go. There's 5 rounds of 8mm Mauser at, what, 50 cents a shot? $2.50 down the drain. I do got this clip, though. Maybe I'll oil it. Maybe it'll do better. There's my rant. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff, so check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I need a shower and a beer. I'll see y'all later. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.